Fed Governor Kugler resigns. Trump gains control over interest rate decisions. Here's the catch-22 shaking the Federal Reserve. A powerful seat suddenly opens up just as the pressure to cut interest rates grows. Dr. Adriana Kugler, a key voting member of the Fed's rate-setting committee, has announced her resignation. This creates a golden opportunity for Trump to install someone who aligns with his push for cheaper borrowing costs, and the implications are deeply political. Kugler, a Biden appointee who joined the Fed board in 2023, confirmed her departure in a letter to Trump last Friday. The 55-year-old economist, who previously served on President Biden's Council of Economic Advisors, will return to Georgetown University in the fall. While she didn't specify her reasons for leaving, "It has been an honor," she wrote simply. A resignation opens the door to potential shifts in the Fed's approach to inflation and employment, its dual mandate. But this isn't the whole story. Kugler had recently taken a cautiously hawkish stance, supporting higher rates until the full impact of Trump's tariffs became clear. This aligns her closely with Chair Jerome Powell, who she praised for guiding the Fed through a critical time. Trump, on the other hand, claims without evidence that she resigned over disagreements with Powell's rate strategy. "I'm very happy about the vacancy," he added gleefully, signaling his intent to fill the seat with someone sympathetic to his economic agenda. This vacancy matters because Trump's two previous Fed appointees already showed appetites for rate cuts. Christopher Waller and Michelle Bowman both opposed keeping rates steady during Wednesday's meeting, directly challenging the Fed's current wait-and-see approach. Kugler's permanent voting seat on the Federal Open Market Committee now becomes a crucial battleground in Trump's effort to reshape monetary policy. Powell's own tenure adds another layer of intrigue. His term as chair ends in May 2024, but he could remain as a governor until 2028. Some Trump allies have floated the idea of a shadow chair scenario, where a new appointee could operate as a strategic counterweight to Powell until he potentially leaves. This would effectively allow Trump to influence interest rate decisions, even before Powell's leadership role formally concludes. The critical question now, will Trump's next nominee prioritize political alignment over economic independence? Given his non-negotiable demand for lower rates, the selectors will likely favor candidates with established dovish track records. Powell himself described Kugler's departure as a loss of impressive experience and academic insights, underscoring what's at stake in this high-stakes personnel shuffle. So we ask you, should the Federal Reserve maintain strict political neutrality during leadership changes, or is some level of agenda alignment with the administration inevitable? And could the shadow chair concept dangerously politicize an institution that typically operates above partisan fray? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Investors react to Kugler resigns as President Trump fights BLS commissioner fire. Investors reacted to Kugler's departure from the Federal Reserve and the firing of U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS Commissioner Erica McIntarfer, sparking debates on economic policy. The Federal Reserve confirmed Kugler would leave on August 8 effective, citing her role in shaping monetary policy. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump ordered McIntarfer's dismissal after data showed employment growth was below expectations last month. This news has divided opinions, with investors questioning the accuracy of labor statistics. Sam Stovall argues that a dovish Fed leader might mislead Wall Street, while Peter Anderson emphasizes the scrutiny of federal data. Comments from experts reveal tensions over whether the BLS situation reflects political manipulation rather than genuine economic shifts. Some suggest Trump's actions signal a shift toward authoritarian control, while others warn of potential market volatility. The timing of these events raises concerns about the reliability of economic data. Fed governor resigns. Trump's new path to shaping interest rates. In a surprising turn of events, Federal Reserve Governor Adriana Kugler has announced her early resignation from the influential Board of Governors, creating an immediate vacancy that presents President Donald Trump with a timely opportunity to influence the leadership of the Federal Reserve as he continues to advocate for lower interest rates. Kugler, a 55-year-old labor economist who was appointed by President Joe Biden, was originally set to serve until January. Her unexpected departure opens a crucial position on the Fed, which could potentially alter the dynamics of the central bank's decision-making process, something Trump has been actively pursuing for several months. The individual Trump chooses to fill Kugler's role may eventually take over from Jerome H. Powell as the chair of the 7-member board. We just found out that I have an open spot on the Federal Reserve Board. I'm very happy about that, Trump remarked late Friday as he prepared to board Marine One. Trump has been vocal in his criticism of Powell, particularly for not acting swiftly to reduce the Fed's short-term interest rates, arguing that such cuts are essential for stimulating economic growth. On Friday, he reiterated his stance in a social media post, suggesting that Powell should be put out to pasture. In a previous post, he labeled the Fed chair as a stubborn moron and insisted that the Fed board should assume control. If Powell hesitates to lower borrowing costs, Powell has generally refrained from responding to the president's criticisms. According to Derek Tang, an economist at L.H. Meyer, an economic consulting firm, Trump's influence on interest rates will now be felt earlier and more strongly, as Kugler's successor may align more closely with Trump's policy preferences, potentially opposing Powell. The Federal Reserve is designed to operate independently from the political pressures of the day, meaning it functions separately from the White House and is not subject to the annual congressional budget process. However, the president appoints each of the 7 governors and selects one to serve as chair for a 4-year term, with the Senate responsible for confirming these nominees. In her resignation announcement on Friday, the Fed indicated that Kugler would return to her teaching position at Georgetown University in the fall. She had missed the recent policy meeting, where the Fed decided to keep interest rates steady, citing personal reasons for her absence. Her resignation will take effect on August 8th. Earlier this spring, there were indications that Trump was considering the possibility of firing Powell, but his close advisors persuaded him against it, fearing that such a drastic move could destabilize financial markets and lead to a contentious battle with the Fed. The person Trump selects to lead the central bank will face a challenging task, balancing the monetary policy objectives of an institution that is meant to function independently, while also addressing the demands of a president who is unafraid to publicly pressure the Fed for lower interest rates. The next chair will likely be under intense scrutiny from both financial markets and within the Fed itself, as officials assess whether political allegiance might compromise the central bank's credibility in combating inflation. If investors begin to perceive that the next Fed chair will act as an extension of Trump's political agenda rather than as an independent overseer of monetary policy, they may demand higher yields on U.S. government debt to account for anticipated inflation. This could lead to increased long-term borrowing costs throughout the economy, even if the Fed succumbs to pressure from the White House to lower its short-term benchmark rate. Currently, potential candidates for the top position include National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett, former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, and Fed Governor Christopher Waller, each bringing unique qualifications to the table. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is also viewed as a possible contender, although Trump has expressed satisfaction with Bessent in his current role. Trump and senior administration officials have also criticized Powell for budget overruns related to a significant $2.5 billion renovation of 2 office buildings near the National Mall. In an unusual move, Trump visited the central bank last week, an action not taken by a sitting president in nearly 2 decades. Instead of a heated confrontation, the meeting turned out to be surprisingly cordial, albeit somewhat awkward. Trump, donning a white hard hat alongside Powell, chose not to criticize the Fed chair during the visit, stating to reporters that he did not wish to make the meeting personal. He later indicated that he would not fire Powell and expressed a desire for the renovation project to move forward. However, scrutiny regarding the Fed's facilities and expenditures may increase as congressional Republicans continue to investigate the matter. Throughout his first term, Trump frequently criticized Powell, whom he appointed as chair, publicly berating him on social media and urging the Fed to lower rates. By late 2018, Trump began inquiring with advisors about the possibility of firing Powell after market declines were attributed to fears surrounding his escalating trade war with China. His advisors informed him that he did not have the authority to do so. Publicly, Powell maintained silence in response to the attacks, and while the Fed ultimately reduced interest rates in 2019, it did so in response to a slowdown in the U.S. economy caused by the trade conflict with China. This decision was more straightforward for the Federal Reserve at that time, as inflation was not a pressing concern, unlike the current situation. Although governors are typically appointed to staggered 14-year terms, it is not uncommon for them to resign early. Nevertheless, the timing of Kugler's exit provides Trump with the opportunity to appoint a new member to the board, about 6 months earlier than he otherwise would have been able to. Powell's term as chair is set to expire in May, although he can remain on the Fed as a governor until early 2028. The individual Trump selects to fill Kugler's position will be well positioned to step into the top role.